Broadcasting live to the world. Now, it's Sheila Zilinsky. The Sheila Zilinsky Show, the only show to give you the truth behind the headlines, prophecy, and the deeper things of God. Now, here is your host, end-time watchwoman, Sheila Zilinsky.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sheila Zilinsky Show for Monday, January 11th. We had some problems last night on the Dave Hodges show. I got taken off 5 minutes at the end. All my equipment went down. I've had ongoing computer problems, amp problems, equipment problems. It just never ends. I've had a guy here all morning trying to straighten some things out, and I'm doing this intro now on a Skype recorder, so I'm getting very MacGyverish and creative. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you in live to a interview that Dave Hodges is doing, and I'm going to be joining him momentarily on air with the one and only Ammon Bundy, and he's going to talk about what's happening, boots on the ground in Burns, Oregon. I'm going to take you there momentarily. Hold me up in your prayers because there is a lot of problems. I was unable to get Augusto Perez this morning for my show today. It's been one thing after the other. Again, all of Dave Hodges' equipment malfunctioned last night as I was about to give out my information, and all our stuff went off the air last night. So again, we're just having nothing but technical issues. So I'm going to take you over to this breaking news. This is today, Monday, January 11th, live. I'm going to bring you on to that interview. We're at the very beginning of it. So this is Ammon Bundy, the showdown in Burns, Oregon, live, boots on the ground. Thank you for being patient with me. Just a heads up, tomorrow I have Steve Quayle on the show. Wednesday, Miss Carla Butod and another guest. Thursday, Russ Dizdar. And Friday, the one and only Pastor David Langford. It's going to be a fantastic lineup, God willing. We'll go over to the other show. Thanks so much.
Similar things that was happening to us as the Bundy family to happening to the Hammond family. And we were concerned that there was no one that was going to, stand and really try to get justice here. So we began to communicate with the Hammonds. They're very friendly and open people. They had been abused tremendously. We began to see that and document those things, communicate with other people, and others saw it as well. And not to take away, there was many others before us that reported on these abuses, but we had the ability to kind of reach the right group and understand what was happening. Our objective at that time was simply to get the local representatives to do their job, to get them to stand and protect the Hammonds against this clear abuse of the Hammonds' rights. And we could see right off the bat that there was issues of double jeopardy, that there was takings from the federal government, of the Hammonds' property without compensation, that there was violations of the First Amendment, and that they were being threatened for speaking to us, and also that there was cruel and unusual punishment going on, amongst many, many others. And so we felt that we had to make a stand to make sure these things didn't happen to other people, and also to relieve the Hammonds. And then we began to see that this was going on to many, many more people in Harney County. That one time Harney County was the wealthiest county in the state because of the logging industry, and also because of the ranching industry primarily. And now it is the poorest in the state because the federal government has locked up and controlled all the resources here. And we just really felt that it was so many people came out to help us and defend us. And we have been blessed tremendously because of that. We were freed and our lives were preserved. And so we felt it was our duty to come out here and to care enough about our neighbor to stand for them, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, hang on one second. Todd, this is to our board op. Let's go ahead and we'll keep the 45-minute break. Let's blow through this one here at the bottom of the hour, okay? Because I don't want to go to break early because we don't know when the feds are going to mess with us again. Last night, Ammon, when your communications went down, so did both of my satellites, the phones, everything. So they did not want you appearing on this show. There's no question about that. Ammon, let me ask you this. Can you paint a visual scene of what's going on up there? How many people are with you approximately? And what's going on outside? Do you have contact with federal officials? What do you see?
Well, a lot of people are thinking we're hunkering down and, peeking through slits in the windows holding our rifles, and that certainly is not happening. We are, there is people that are cycling in and out, so the number varies, but we are very strong and very organized. The core individuals are staying here. We are using the facilities here, which has 9 or 10 different buildings, maybe even more, and we are using them and their facilities and their equipment and all of that, going around and helping ranchers in the area. We just got back. In fact, still on the road when you called. When we called, we just got back from opening up and removing some fencing that the Fish and Wildlife Service put in last year to restrict some ranchers from their grazing rights, and and so that's what we've been doing, and we're just constantly communicating with the people of the area here, and we're working with them to give them the strength and the courage enough to stand and take back their rights. And so we're working. We're not bunkered down, and we're not afraid, and we will not let fear take over our decisions. We're here because we feel that the Lord wanted us here, and that we were to do a good thing, and so we will rely on faith, not fear.
Yeah, that's real obvious that you guys aren't fearful. Let me ask you a question with a phrase that we often hear. Do you think this is the hill to die on, or is it just the hill to make a statement and live to fight another day?
Well, I'll tell you this. We're not here to be protesters, and we never did come here to be protesters. We came here very simply. We didn't here to cause a war either. In fact, that's exactly opposite. We felt that if we did not stand now, when the people had good reason to stand, and if we did not make that stand, that eventually down the years, and how close we're getting, eventually, very soon, that it would come to war. We felt that we needed to make the stand now so that we can peacefully go through this process, get the people back on their feet without war or violence.
Are you finding, like we see in Northern California in that area, not only are they taking the minerals out, not only are they restricting usage of the land and exercising prosecutorial abuse against people like the Hammonds, are they also messing with your water up there?
Absolutely. That's one of the main complaints of the ranchers. They have not been able to drill wells for 5 years here. And even if, like, say, a well has an issue, has a problem, and they need to just use their same water, they're not able to do that. It's a real problem for the people here, a real problem.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I see up in Northern California and Southern Oregon, there's 19 states, at my last count, called the state of Jefferson. They want to secede from those two states over these very same things. So, Ammon, I think this is something that's going to spread like wildfire across the West. What do you say about that?
Well, all I can say is I hope so. But remember, this is about the individual. The individual owns rights. Government does not own those rights, as you know. And this is about individuals standing up and uniting together to defend their individual rights. Because what we have is a situation here where government has taken the position that they own it, that they are the rightful users of it, and that they are the ones that can benefit and sell it and transfer it and be the beneficiaries of it. And as you know, that is completely opposite to what our founding fathers, our system of government was established on. The rights belong to the individual. It's very simple. The land and the resources belong to the people.
Absolutely. Let me bring in my co-host, Sheila Zilinsky. Sheila, I know you have a couple questions.
Ammon, of course, we go way back with your dad. We helped in the BLM showdown get that to the public. How do you respond to people like the Chuck Baldwins, the Stuart Rhodes, clearly notable liberty-loving constitutional men, but this idea that what you've done is lawless, whether intimidation by the boots on the ground, they say, and clearly the community doesn't want these guys there. Who are the loudest shouters? Ammon wants to ask himself, well, who are these, could there be provocateurs? Obviously, people that are installed there. How do you respond to that word, what they're doing is lawless?
Well, I would have to say, and it's very clear to me, that first of all, I'll just say that there are a lot of people who say they stand for the Constitution but do not understand it, who say that they're all about defending and protecting the Constitution, but yet they simply do not understand it. That in many ways it's become just an idea, because what we are doing here is very clearly and we stand very firm on constitutional principles, and that is that the federal government does not have authority to come inside the states and to control and administer its land and resources. And we find that in Article 1, 817. We find their authority, which they have to territories, in Article 432. And so if you truly believe in the Constitution and you understand it, and that's what I'm basically asking people to do, is go to Article 1, 817 and understand that there are rules in which the federal government must follow in order to own or administer lands inside a state. And those rules are that they have to have consent from the state legislatures. They also have to purchase it from the rightful owner, and they can only use it for certain things, which are military purposes, national defense, and international trade, along with a few other needed buildings, which are like post offices and so forth. And so you can see that these vast lands that they control and they acquire and they force people out, and they use the courts to take, all of those are actually very, very clear that they're unconstitutional, that they did not have authority to do it in the first place.
Well, certainly unconstitutional, but again, is this the way to go about it? That's what it's burning on everyone's mind. Is this the way to go about it?
Well, I guess that's to be determined.
Okay, well, let's say that
I know it is what we felt was right. I know that it is certainly what we felt was right, but I can't make that decision for others. They have to see what we're doing. And I will say this: there has been a complete exhaustion of prudent methods, including through the courts, including through elected representatives. And we continue to keep saying that, if we get this person in this position, or these people in this position, or if we get the courts to do this, the courts to do that, and so on and so forth. If we get them to do that, things are going to get better, and they don't. They have got very clearly worse. And just as our founders taught, this is the right way to do it. This is the way in which our founders did it. This is the way in which the black community got their rights. It's the way in which the women received their rights. And it's the way in which rights are protected and defended. And so I encourage those to go back in history and determine how things are really done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think your historical parallels are very, very accurate. My concern is, let me ask you this. What kind of federal presence are you seeing there? How well armed are they? How many are there? Are they menacing and threatening?
Well, so we're 30 miles out of town, and so we haven't seen any federal or any other state or, or county law enforcement presence, period, out here. None. We do know that they are in Burns. We do know that they have locked down their downtown, that they fenced off the court building, and that they also fenced off the schools and closed the schools down. And we also know that they have men that are stationed and equipment that are stationed at the school and at the airport. But these have become very clear to the people as fear tactics to keep them from accepting and unifying with what we're doing.
Well, they sound like police state tactics to me, Ammon.
Well, yeah, when
you guys aren't threatening the town. You're not threatening civilians. Yeah, exactly. Why do they have to take those measures? That's Gestapo stuff.
Well, they have to do it in order to, because what they're saying is that, oh, these people out there are so dangerous that we got to protect you, right? And but the thing is, and I'm not exaggerating, we have had hundreds, close to 300, if I was to give a number of ranchers and people from the community that have freely come down into the facility here to the refuge, that we have had open communications with. I mean, it's been a really beautiful thing, and the community is talking and working amongst each other. Yes, there is a lot to talk about, and there's some tremendous things that they are discussing. But this has opened up a dialogue that has not been that basically, if they spoke about before, they would have to worry about retribution, about being punished for it. And now they feel free to talk and to discuss.
So you're saying that when ranchers and farmers have spoken out before, the federal government has retaliated against them? If so, can you give me an example?
Well, the Hammonds are the best example, but yeah, this has happened.
Yeah.
I mean, all over. Anytime they spoke out in any way, it would be a trigger in which they begin to attack them to the point which they would ultimately take their ranch, and they would use methods such as not issuing permits, or even ending permits right in the middle of contracts, or basically even to the point, like you said, even to the point of using the courts to prosecute them, and that not only happened because they spoke out, that also happened simply because they wanted their land. I mean, they may not have had any reason to do it as far as vindictively, but they might say, and this has happened to over 100 ranchers just in the refuge alone, where the refuge said, "We want your ranch," and they say, "Well, we don't want to sell it," and so they go through a process to diminish the ranches to where the value isn't worth anything, and then the ranchers pretty much buy it. And let me give you an example of that. And this is, I use this example because it's such a good one, but there were ranchers in the Sylvie floodplains, and about 35 ranchers over there, and the refuge wanted to buy them out. They were some of the last ones, and they did not want to buy out, so the ranchers unified over there and put up a pretty good defense and protected themselves pretty good. So what did the refuge do? They took and built a canal and stopped irrigating all of the fields and areas of the refuge, and put that water straight down the canal into the Malheur Lake. It filled up the lake and covered all the ranches, and destroyed 32 ranches. And now underwater and ruined, their homes, their trails, everything ruined now. And they shortly after that begged the Fish and Wildlife Service to acquire their lands. And many of those lands were bought while they're underneath the water. And then the water went down, and now they have those ranches, and basically have added it to their vast holdings here. So that
Yeah,
just a little bit
they
of it.
bought them pennies on the dollar too. I'd be willing to bet that.
Oh,
Am,
absolutely, absolutely.
Ammon, here, let me tell this to the listening audience. I know with Ammon Bundy is telling absolutely 100% the truth here. And anyone who's followed my show for any length of time know I got into the broadcasting business because this same thing happened in my community of 300 families. I was the spokesperson for our group, and I ended up doing a radio show. And this is how I got in the media. I used to be a college basketball coach and a professor. I didn't do this stuff until the government came after my property. They shut down our property rights, and we were pretty much new homes. Acre and a half, 3 acre homes, 300 families. And they said, you can't be there. What they wanted to do was put an international corridor and get our underground water. They wanted to come right through our land. They didn't want to pay us for it. They tried to force us off the land, just like what you're describing here. This is happening everywhere, folks. No one is safe.
Yeah, let me give you another example. Just in the adjacent county, Malheur County right now, they're facing all they got to do is put a signature to it where they're going to be a monument placed over there, and it's twice the size of Yellowstone, twice the size of Yellowstone. And it's going to destroy anywhere from 350 to 400 ranchers. And they're just doing it arbitrarily without constitutional authority. And that's why it's time that we stand. If we don't stand, the people will either be diminished to the point where they'll not have the strength to stand, or they will be wanting to fight in an open war. And
exactly. Ammon, I'm going to have to hold it right here.
Better way.
I'm sorry. We're going to continue this after the break, and then we're going to ask you how we can help you. We're coming into a 2-minute break. We won't be long, but we've got a few contractual obligations we got to take care of here. And we come back, we'll have 15 minutes right up until the end. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back with Ammon Bundy in this riveting interview after a word from these sponsors. What's going on here in Burns, Oregon? The federal government loves this distraction because it takes eyes off the economy and how bad things are. How long is the dollar going to be around? I don't know. They're propping it up, but it could be gone any moment, any day. So you need to get prepared, and you should be converting a lot of your cash into gold and silver. And Steve Quayle at Renaissance Precious Metals is the guy to go to. He will talk to you, he'll work with you, he'll advise you, and it's the most low-pressure sales I ever been through. I'm a happy customer of Steve Quayle at Renaissance Precious Metals. Call him tomorrow at 406-586-4842. Again, Steve Quayle, Renaissance Precious Metals, 406-586-4842. Well, we're rejoining Ammon Bundy, who's so graciously taken the time out of what he's doing outside the Burns, Oregon area to tell us about what's happening. And I know, Sheila, I think you've got a very relevant question that ties into what Ammon was saying as we went into the break. So let me throw it over to you, Sheila.
Well, the Hammonds are originally charged with, of course, a burn that got out of control, convicted by a jury of their peers. Then you have this trial judge issuing that sentence. But rarely, Ammon, do you see a Ninth Circuit appeal on an appellant. I mean, 4 years tacked on. What's your thoughts on all that? And how do you respond to people saying, well, these guys don't want Ammon Bundy and his crew involved? Let the listeners know your thoughts on all that.
Well, first of all, they can call it what they want. They called it resentencing, but it very, very clearly is double jeopardy. And if we again go to the Constitution for clarification, we see that that is illegal, it is unconstituted, and it is that government or anybody puts a person twice put in jeopardy. And that's exactly what has happened. The Hammonds, they even though it was wrong from the beginning, they endured through the court process, through a trial, and they were wrongly convicted because of many corruptions in the court. But they ended up accepting it. They did their time in a federal prison, and they came out and got back to their life and felt, okay, hey, look, we can put this behind us. As wrong as it was, we put this behind us. They went back to their families, back to their ranch, and then the prosecuting attorney and the U.S. Attorney's Office decided that that wasn't enough, that they needed to go after them further, and so they appealed the judge's sentencing, the federal judge's sentencing, to the Ninth District Court of Appeals, and got them resentenced for a remainder of 5 years. And so Dwight will go to prison for 4 years and 9 months, and Stephen will go to prison for 4 years. And if that's not double jeopardy, I just don't know what is. It clearly, it's the epitome of double jeopardy.
What's incredible, too, is Dwight is 73 years of age. I don't see how this serves the public interest in any way, shape, or form, and we should be outraged. Ammon, how can we help you? How can the public, the people that are listening here, how can we help and support your efforts?
Well, people have to, one is we need people to come and to be here that are wanting to go to work. We need people to stand in defense, but we also need people that can help us with the records, because we're unwinding all these records to get them back into the people's hands. So anybody who has experience in county recording or recording at all, in maps, in surveying, we need your help. We need you to come and work and to lay out this county so we can identify who's using what and transfer these rights, through title and deed out of the federal government's hands and into the people's hands. But, we need people to stand in defense so that we can accomplish this and be protected while we do it. We need, and that doesn't mean you have to come for, months. It means you might come for 2 or 3 days and cycle somebody out and give those people that are here a break. And we also need funding to do this. And I hesitate because I've never asked for funding before, but we do need that. We do have resources and needs that we need to get because of the signage that we're changing. We're changing over the signage back to the county. And if you want to donate to the website is C4CF, C4CF.com, and that stands for Citizens for Constitutional Freedom. So C4CF, and there's a way you can donate there. And then equally important, or maybe even just as important, I guess I should say, is continue to be educated, and then to start the same things where you're at. Start it in your county. Get people to understand that the federal government does not have authority to be regulating their industries, to be regulating their lands, to be regulating their resources, and make that stand strong on it and unite.
Well, there's a very robust audience tuned in the waning moments. What is it that you want the people listening to know, Ammon?
It is very, very simple. The land and the resources belong to the people.
There you have it, folks. Dave?
Ammon, let me sum up and let me see if I've got this right. You and your colleagues showed up not to take anything over, not to engage the federal government on a violent basis. You showed up to make sure that the rightful owners of land and minerals and other resources is honored by the rule of law. Is that, am I getting this?
I don't think I could say it better. And the reason why it's so important is because we understand what is happening to the economy. We're understanding what's happening to wealth. And if we can make this stand and get the resources back in the people's hands, back to them producing and profiting from it, back at it being free again, so that we can truly get back on our feet. That's what's going to help us recover. That's what's going to be the key to recovering, not some change or act in Congress. It's the people actually getting out there, using the land and resources to benefit. That's going to change the economy. All wealth is generated from the land and the resources. And everything that we live in, our homes, our clothing, our food, all come from the land, and all wealth is generated from it. And so we need to realize that and protect it and make sure that government doesn't claim it as their own.
Ammon, I'm going to drop a bombshell here. I wrote an article a few years ago, and I recently referenced it again, and it has to do with a study done by a private think tank group where they said we have $128 trillion of untapped resources under the ground. Are you aware that the wealth is that vast?
I'm not aware of the numbers, but I have seen maps and so forth that show the resources, especially in the West. And they are tremendous. The Lord has blessed this country with everything we need to be happy and to thrive and to be a productive people.
Well, one of the things I'm also aware of.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, I've been. You know what? I'm going to forward that to your website if you've got a communication venue there. Excuse me. I'm going to forward that to your website so you can reference this. But
please do.
One of the other things that I'm aware of is I've been covering this now, probably for 9 years, is the abuse on Native American lands towards their resources, where the BLM and the National Forest Service lets people come on to native land and steal their resources without compensating them in violation of the treaty agreements made between the United States and the various Indian nations. I would think they would make really good allies with your colleagues.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I reached out to my contact today, actually, and he is reaching out to the tribes here because they have expressed their desire to get things straight as well. And so that communication has not happened, but we are opening that up, because you're exactly right. The federal government has violated every treaty agreement on every reservation since they made it. And so, and we know that we're all children of our Heavenly Father. We all have rights. That we do not have a monopoly on that. And all rights need to be defended, not just ranchers or loggers or, even the financial industries or the auto industries. It needs to be all people. And that certainly includes the Native Americans.
Absolutely. Sheila, any final thoughts or questions for Ammon?
Well, Ammon, just know that there are many people praying for you guys. And of course, if we can do anything, you know how to reach us as well. I ask people, there's a lot of armchair patriots out there, a lot of armchair patriots. So I just ask that everyone reach in their pocket and start donating to these fellas. I think it's an amazing cause. Again, I don't know if it's Concord or Lexington, but I can assure you, Ammon, we do very much empathize with your plight, and we will be praying for you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I very well said, Sheila. I have one final question for you, Ammon, and that is, has the federal government made any overt demands towards your group?
They have not. There's been no communication.
I find that odd.
Very odd.
I do. I find that eerily strange. I think they're afraid to engage at this point, because I think they're afraid of turning you guys into martyrs, because the numbers would grow exponentially.
Yeah, well, there's certainly that, but it is a lose-lose situation. But you also have to acknowledge, and sometimes it's difficult for it to do this, but there are good people in the federal government, and they don't want, and they actually support us. They actually understand. And so I would bet, and I don't know this, but I would guess, I'm not a betting man, I guess, so I wouldn't bet, but I would guess that there's a little bit of a conflict between them as well, and there's a little indecision there, and also it's a lose-lose situation for them, because if they try to, say, come after us and prosecute us or so forth on these issues for occupying this place, what they'll do is they'll raise the question of whether this is territory or state, and it will go all the way to the Supreme Court, and they will clearly lose. And so that would be detrimental to them.
Absolutely.
In all areas. So,
Ammon, we are out of time.
Position.
Ammon, we're running up against the clock. I wanted to give you just a second here to give out that website once again where people can follow this.
It's C4CF. Now, that's the number 4. So C4CF.
Got it. And I'll put that out in the follow-up article and the rebroadcast I'm going to put out on this. Ammon Bundy, we stand in support of you. And if there's anything that we at the Common Sense Show can do, Sheila and I will be happy to help you. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for taking time out to be with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Ammon Bundy. And there's not many of them left. I hope you took a long listen today, because what this world needs and what this country needs is a lot more Ammon Bundys. And what Dave Hodges needs is a lot more Sheila Zilinsky's. You've heard what a nice presence Sheila has. Get used to it. She's going to be with us a lot. Sheila, we will pursue your book in more depth. We certainly didn't do it justice today, and we are out of time. I got to say goodbye. So on behalf of Sheila Zilinsky and Dave Hodges, this is the Common Sense Show. Go out and have a great day.